Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering my ranking of Season 3 of Scooby Doo Where Are You? Or the Scooby Doo Show, depending on how you look at it. Historically, it was the Scooby Doo Show. Even the credits are kind of Scooby Doo Show, so it should be the Scooby Doo Show, but in the last 20 years it was packaged on DVD and Blu-ray as Scooby Doo Where Are You, so I refer to it as both. This episode is rather off the cuff. It's not scripted or anything other than my list, which I have in front of me. So you'll see me look at my list to remember where I'm at. Otherwise, I'm just going off the cuff with my thoughts on the episode. And this list is also very arbitrary. My list will constantly change and evolve. So if my favorite episode isn't yours, it's your least favorite, or vice versa. If my least favorite episode is your favorite, don't get mad, because it really doesn't matter. It's a cartoon. This is all for fun, and my opinion will change. I mean, you might say something that might make me say, "Oh, yeah, actually, I'm gonna boost my ranking for that at this point in time." Who knows, right? And a lot of this is based on nostalgia and our personal interests and our histories, and everyone's list should be different. So if you have time, leave your list below. There's 16 episodes. You can do all 16. You can do top 5, top 3. You can do middle ground, 9 if you want. You can do your least favorite, whatever you want. If you leave a comment, please feel free to, because I enjoy the comments. I enjoy seeing what other people think. And when you say something that differs than mine, it makes me kind of rethink my opinion. And I like that. I like rethinking my opinion. And it's, again, just all for fun. Comments are open because I'm not showing cartoons in my clips, so I can leave comments open. In my regular reviews, I can't have comments open. YouTube turns them off automatically because I make my episodes for kids according to the legal guidances or guidelines of the government. There's these certain laws where you have to decide on YouTube if your videos are made for kids or not. And because mine are cartoon, and I'm kind of, I don't want to get sued, so I just say, yeah, they're made for kids, and that way I won't get sued. And yeah, that's why I do that. And I can leave these open for kids because I think this is open for everyone. I'm not showing cartoon clips and such, and I really want to hear what you think. Also, that's all I really have to say. So I'm going to get to my list, and my list is going to be from favorite to least favorite. And it's in the description below. So if you don't want to watch me babble on, just go to the description below, read that, leave a comment, whatever. I'm not here to, fill up your time unless you're interested in watching me fill up your time. So like I said, I'm just going to babble on about my favorite to least favorite. And here we go. My number one favorite is Make a Beeline Away from That Feline. And what I loved about this episode was the villain. I love the design of the cat creature. This cat creature was a little bit dangerous than most Scooby-Doo villains. It actually tore a piece of Shaggy's shirt. And I love the New York atmosphere of this and how they're in these old apartments. Has that kind of Ghostbusters vibe. Remember Ghostbusters took place in New York, and they went to those old apartments and such, and you had that old architecture. This episode kind of reminds me of that. Just a fun episode. The jewelry thief heist was cool, and the cemetery that they visit was spooky, and they had all these statues of cat creatures, and you had that just kind of interesting element to that episode that I love. So that's why it's my number one. My number two is To Switch a Witch, and I just love that the villain in this is a female. I love the history and backstory and the sinister plot. This has one of the most depressing plots because you have a twin sister who's basically trying to kill her sister. And yeah, that was kind of spooky and sinister and scary. And there's some cool shots of the witch that are just fabulous, just fabulous. And they're only like 2 or 3 seconds. So if you blink and you miss it, you miss out. And that's a lot of Scooby-Doo has to do with that. There's some very cool stuff and shots in Scooby-Doo that if you blink and miss it, you're kind of let down. But yeah, some rather cool shots in this episode. Number 3 is The Creepy Creature of Vulture's Claw. This one is just bonkers, this episode. It's just so silly, but that's why I loved it. It kind of reminded me of the game Clue or an Agatha Christie mystery, or even the recent movie called Knives Out that came out about 2 years ago. Just how bonkers that plot was. This one is just as crazy. You get mad scientists, you get a giant praying mantis creature storming around a botanical garden site, and it's just funny. and you got all these people who are suspects, and they do it really well. They make you suspicious of everyone. Fun episode. Number 4 is the Warlock of Wimbledon. I like this because this was just like an old-timey classic Scooby Doo episode. You get the gang visiting, a friend who's like an athlete, and there's this curse on him by a warlock, and they actually play a tennis game in Wimbledon, and it's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of technology involved, and we learn that Shaggy carries a pair of Velma's glasses in his pocket, which is just odd, but whatever. I mean, Daphne's always carrying around like a random chocolate pies for them, and somehow they're always carrying around Scooby snacks that you never see, so why not a pair of glasses as well? So yeah, my number 4, cool looking villain, different looking villain, but I liked him. Number 5, Menace in Venice. I probably like this a little bit better than the Warlock in Wimbledon, but I found it was a little too busy for me. But this is like just an old-timey kind of adventure kind of film. You kind of get these adventure movies starring Nicolas Cage in the 90s with those National Treasure movies. So this is what this kind of reminded me of. And yeah, it's just set piece to set piece to set piece. They just don't stop. They just keep it running. And I loved how the ghostly gondolier was designed. I don't like his name so much, but I like his design. And I liked how their friend Antonio owned a pizza parlor, and the kids all sat in there and they talked, and they just acted like kids. And that's one of my favorite things. Aside from spookiness and Scooby-Doo, I just like the kids acting as teenagers, or, kids in their early 20s or whatever, how old they are. I just love that. Number 6 is A Scary Night with the Snow Beast Fright. I liked how this took place up north in the Yukon or Northwest Territories, or wherever they are. I forget exactly where they are. And you have the Inuit involved in their history. I like that. And you had totem poles involved and native relics involved. And there's some cool shots in the caves later on because there's some cave systems. And the beasts look cool. It was basically a giant Muppet with that was mechanical, that was piloted by this guy. Very unrealistic, but, it's cartoons. I didn't care. I just like the design of him. There's some intense scenes that, we later saw in Jurassic Park where Scooby's hiding from this monster, and I thought that was rather cool that this monster was like a furry T-Rex. So I thought that was very cool. Number 7 is Creepy Tangle in Bermuda Triangle. I like the Bermuda Triangle lore and history and phenomenon of this. Bermuda Triangle was always fascinating to me. It was a big deal back in the 70s. It was everywhere. It was on like every paperback. And if you read old X-Men comics, Bermuda Triangle is like a thing in some of the older X-Men comics from the early 80s and late 70s. So big history with that. And I just liked the design of the skeleton men. Not that scary, but he also had that hermit walking around on the island. He was rather cool. This is stuff we've all kind of seen before. It's all kind of been recycled, but a fun episode nonetheless. And I like the opening intro where the gang are on the boat and they're in that storm. It's pretty scary because they're in the hurricane and they get stranded on an island. A lot of adventures always start with people getting stranded on islands. So that was kind of cool. Number 8 is The Beast is Awake in Bottomless Lake. When I reviewed this, I didn't think this would make my list that high, but when I think back on it, it was a pretty cool episode. I like the design of the beast, and I like that we get another female villain in this. And second female villain of the series. I think we get 3 female villains in total in this series. I could be wrong. But yeah, I like that aspect. And what else did I like? I liked that this took place in Canada because I live in Canada. And the plot was a little busy and a little complicated, but it was just a fun, friendly, kind of classic episode that isn't perfect, but it's fun. Number 9 is the Tar Monster. I should probably rate this a little higher than The Beast is Awake in Bottomless Lake, but I like the Beast design better than the Tar Monster. Similar kind of idea. You get your spooky monster of the week. This one scuba dives as well. But this one takes place in Turkey, and, you get the gang visiting a professor, and they're going to undig a city that hasn't been, seen in hundreds of years. So that's rather cool. And yeah, you get some cool scenes at the start with the gang and the Mystery Machine on a bumpy road. Fun episode. An episode I'd like to rewatch again, and I enjoyed watching it this time around. My number 10 episode is Scooby's Chinese Fortune Kooky Caper. And yeah, again, Monster of the Week. They recycled the plot where the monster turns you into stone. We saw that with the Mummy episode from season 1. But overall, pretty cool. I like the uncle was guilty. And a simpler plot than most, but overall pretty cool. I think my biggest complaint was that, I wish they'd revisit this and just really focus on the Asian lore in it. This is like an Americanized version of Asian history, I felt. It didn't feel sincere or legit to me. So I'd like to see some, people familiar with Asian history and Asian beasts and monsters to really tackle the Scooby Doo legend. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be really cool. Number 11 is Jeepers, It's the Jaguaro. This is like your classic kind of 1950s jungle adventure. You get headhunters, you get a mythical beast. This is kind of like King Kong in a sense, but not exactly. You don't get Daphne kidnapped by the Jaguaro in this episode, but you do get, a giant beast walking around, head of a saber-toothed tiger. You get Shaggy and Scooby encountering some rather dangerous beasts with the piranhas and the alligators or crocodiles and giant anaconda and such. And the headhunters pose a threat too. They plan on eating Shaggy and Scooby. Fun episode, just a jungle episode. The scream of the Jaguaro cracks me up. I don't think that's the intention, but I find it charming. Number 12 is The Creepy Case of Old Iron Face. This could have been a masterpiece. The Skull Island with the jail on top. It's a really spooky setting. And even the lady driving along on the torpedoes with sharks drawn on them. That's really cool. But this one went for gags. It didn't go for spooks, so that's why it's kind of lower down on my list. This one was just a little too silly. They really could have went with atmosphere with this one, made it really spooky, but they didn't. So I found it a little too silly, but cool villain, cool design with the sharks and such. But otherwise, a little too silly for me. Number 13 is Watch It, the Willawaw. I thought I'd like this more, and I probably should. I just didn't like the design of the owl men or the Willawaw itself. I know it's Native American history. I just didn't do much for me. It's a little too cartoony. And it kind of recycled the Viking plot we saw earlier in the Scooby Doo show that I think premiered the year before. So you had pretty much the exact same plot. They're visiting Velma's uncle up in Canada, and the uncle gets kidnapped and they have to find him. And that was the same plot as the Viking Island. What was it called? The Curse of Viking Island, or I forget what it's called right now. But yeah, exact same kind of plot. And that's kind of why it's a little lower down. It's recycled a little too much. I liked how this was Native Americans and they were involved. And I like that they went there. I just wish, thematically it just went in a bit of a different direction. Still, it's a good episode. I've watched it like 6 or 7 times, and I plan on rewatching it again, and I'll probably rank it higher at one point. Probably if I didn't watch it as close as the Viking episode, I'd like it a little more, or if I watched it first, I'd probably like it a little bit more. Number 14 for me is a Highland Fling with a Monstrous Thing. I thought I'd rank this a little bit higher, but it's a little low down. I thought the kilt-wearing ghost was a little silly. I think at the time I kind of liked him, because he kind of floated around playing bagpipes, but thinking back on it, I thought he was rather silly. The Loch Ness Monster, it's not done that well. It's done okay. The castle is cool, and I like Aggie McDuff a lot. I liked her a lot, actually. I'd like to see more of her in future episodes of Scooby-Doo. We never do. We never see these people again for the most part. I wish they'd kind of return to people. But I like that she owned like a touristy kind of castle. We've seen this before, though, but I liked it. Still a good episode. It's nothing I disliked in this, really. It's just kind of right now, at this moment in time, lower down on my list. Number 15 is the Diabolical Disc Demon. This is an episode I thought I'd love because I love the band Kiss, and this character was like a cartoonized version of Kiss. But this one's just kind of, I do actually like it. When I think back, I always think fond thoughts of this episode. But when I watch it, I'm just like, they could have done more with this. I liked how the victim wrote his name, Ace Decade's name out on in sheet music. I thought that was cool. But otherwise, the Disc Demon, while he looks cool and cartoony, he's not that scary. And this episode's a little too silly, and I thought they could have done a little more with it. I'd like to see this redone and just made a little tighter and spookier. And my final episode is Don't Go Near the Fortress of Fear. It's really number 16 because the villain is just, he looks lame. I'm sorry, I just think he looks silly. I know he's historically done kind of to look like how someone would look back in that era, but he just laughs a lot and he doesn't do much other than trigger traps and, I don't know, laugh. And he did nothing for me. What I did like though is that when Shaggy and Scooby see him, they don't tell the gang for once. And I thought that was funny. They're like, yep, no, we didn't see anything because they don't want to return to that stupid castle or fortress. But otherwise, yeah, the plot was kind of cool how he's shooting cannonballs with the goods in those cannonballs across, the lake or whatever. I thought that was kind of cool. But otherwise, my number 16. So yeah, those are my rankings. Again, I'd like to hear yours. And again, I'm taking a bit of a break. We're in May now. I'll be starting up on September 11th. With the Scooby Doo movies. I'm working on them right now. I've actually finished an episode today and I've scheduled it for September 11th, 2021. And I will be working from May as far as I can. I want to enjoy my summer. In the summer, I like to get out there. I live in Canada. We only have like 3 or 4 months of warm weather in Canada. So I got to get out there, enjoy it. I don't want to be in my room doing these videos when I could be outside walking my dog and enjoying the trails and whatever else. I've been cooped up all year. So I'm going to lose some subscribers because of it. And I'm going to lose, a lot of channel attention, which is a bad thing. But I don't want to race through this either because there's only a limited amount of Scooby Doo episodes. So it's good to take my time and it's good to have some space and, have some breathing room for my mind. But I will, I promise, come September, regular schedule. It'll go probably September to early December. I'll take my Christmas holiday break. And then January to May, we'll probably finish off all of the Scooby Doo movies, which are like an hour long. And then after that, I'll probably start up again in September and I'll do the Scooby Doo show episodes that I've missed, which are season 1 and 2. And then we'll continue on with the Scrappy years after that. And that's probably going to be my cycle. So until September, I might pop in if there's some Scooby Doo movies that come out and just do a quick impromptu review. And I might put out some Scooby Doo news if something comes up. But until then, have a great summer and stay spooky.